Corey LaJoie grew up with racing royalty stitched on his fire suit.
The well-known Corey LaJoie.
Corey LaJoie.
Corey LaJoie.
Now been joined by Corey LaJoie.
It takes 15 years to become an overnight success.
The last I looked, I think you had 1.5 million subscribers.
Fire me up with that intro.
The common denominator with you is success.
You better buckle up. It's about to be a long show.
I did it.
You did what?
Hashtag stacking pennies.
That's the mantra behind Corey's podcast and his life.
Because there's no minimum to make it to the pearly gates. You've got a penny, you put a penny in there. If you've got 100 grand, you put 100 grand.
And put shoes on kids who'd never owned a pair.
Feels like the Lord has a bungee cord to your soul and is yanking it out of your asshole. It is hard to be consistent in who you're supposed to be as a Christian in a competitive-based business.
One small victory after one small victory.
This is the best country, by far.
That's not good.
The caution flag is out. It's time for a pit stop with Corey LaJoie. What's up, Corey?
Why you quiet? It's time to stand up for the truth. How they coming for our kids, so who gon' stand up for the youth? Ay, and we know we win because Yeshua is the proof. Ay, we the people like Gates Garcia, so that's no excuse.
Strap in, Patriots. Today we're drafting behind a guy who floors it at 200 miles an hour, but doesn't measure wins by trips to victory lane. He stacks pennies, and we're going to get into that. Corey LaJoie grew up with racing royalty stitched on his fire suit. Yet the moment that rerouted his life wasn't a checkered flag. It was an overnight RV trip when his wife Kelly and their 3 boys were asleep behind him. 5 souls on one bus. That's his whole scoreboard now. This is the driver who once slapped his own grin on the hood at Daytona just to remind the sport to lighten up, and then turned around and forfeited a month's salary so his Ford could carry Samaritan's feet on the quarter panel and put shoes on kids who'd never owned a pair. More than 100 grand later, those pennies have stacked up into pavement-melting generosity. Stacking pennies. That's the mantra behind Corey's podcast and his life. Tiny, faithful choices piled high until they weigh more than horsepower or highlight reels. So as America rockets toward her 250th birthday, buckle up for a conversation about faith that wrestles instead of coasts, family that outruns fame, and the kind of freedom that's loud enough to rattle sheet metal, yet tender enough to tuck 3 toddlers in before dawn. The caution flag is out. It's time for a pit stop with Corey LaJoie. What's up, Corey?
Hey, fire me up with that intro, Gates.
Well, it's usually your podcast firing me up, man. I have fallen in love with the sport of NASCAR over the past about 2 years through my relationship, my now good friendship with Carl Edwards, Hall of Famer, who you and I share that friendship with. And I've just fallen in love with the sport. It's everything that I love about America. It's everything I love about family. It's everything I love about faith. It sort of defines this show. It's kind of the sport that represents what we're all about here, we the people. So faith, family, freedom, those are obviously going to be the themes of what I want to talk to you about. I want to start with family. I want to kind of go back to the very beginning of your career. Then I want to jump to the end, and then I want to kind of cover everything in the middle. So that's all right with you. Let's start the engines.
But it's long. That's a long one. You better buckle up. It's about to be a long show if we're going to cover all of that and everything in between, but I'm excited to do it with you.
Let's do it, man. So, all right. So, I want to kind of go to the formative years of your life, your career, your family legacy. I mean, you grew up in the shadow of a legend. I mean, your dad, Randy LaJoie, won the Busch Championship in 96, 97. Did you feel like growing up sort of in the smell of the garage and under the lights of the tracks that you were kind of destined for this? Did you feel pressure to go into the sport? Because I know meeting a lot of these families, most of their kids are into the sport, but I mean, it's hard to sort of grow up in that and then perform at the level you performed up at. What was that like?
Yeah, man, it was awesome because you don't really know anything different but to go be a race car driver necessarily. Now, that wasn't something my dad pushed for. I remember being probably 8 years old. It'd been, 98, 99. I remember walking through the garage area at Darlington, and all the cars are beat and sandblasted, and all the body panels are falling off, and you get the smell, and you just see the visuals, and you see the hustle and bustle of the garage, and that's when I got bit by the bug myself, right? Because anybody can get drugged to the racetrack, but until that bug bites it, and that really venom gets into you real deep and starts coursing through your veins, that's what happened to me that day. I remember I always go back to Darlington to when I'm racing there and standing in that exact same spot, like, man, this is where I realized I wanted to do it. It wasn't a straight path. I believe, to your point about being a son of somebody that was really successful, my dad and my grandfather as well. My grandfather's in the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame. He didn't really venture into NASCAR too much because back then it was, man, he could race at a Saturday night track and make more money than he could trying to chase NASCAR. So he never really pursued it. He just was really good at his one racetrack up in Danbury, Connecticut. And then my dad moved down late 80s to try to pursue NASCAR. And I just think growing up, you've got a bit more of a microscope on you. Your mistakes are magnified because people just assume that you are in the best cars, around the best people, you're going to have the best opportunities, which for some people that's correct, but for me it wasn't. My dad actually swung it the other way and said, man, if you're going to be successful, you got to figure out how to get crafty and figure out how to get sponsors and how to work on your own cars. So it wasn't until I was 14, 15 years old to where I had any help doing anything. It was always, I meant that thing wanted to leave the shop. It was my ass putting oil in it and airing the tires up and figuring out how to make it go. Now, my dad certainly was there along for the help, but he wasn't the one pushing the truck. Like, I had to really want it, which I'm super appreciative of that because it helped me figure out how to communicate with people, how to, articulate what you eat, behind the wheel as well as outside the car, because you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help as long as you ask the right way and in a humble manner. And that's what really my career looked like, is just a lot of people helping me continue to progress from one level to the next. And then whatever this next chapter looks like, I'm kind of right in the middle of it right now, in between the ending of one chapter, potentially the new beginning of another. So trying to figure out and be diligent with wherever the Lord wants to lead me next.
Hey guys, it's Gates. Thanks for tuning in. I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the show. I hear that all the time when I watch and listen to podcasts. And now that I have a show, I know the difference that it makes. It really does boost us in the algorithm. And the better we do in the algorithm, the better guests we're going to get, the better content we're going to be able to produce. This show is not mine, it's yours. So in a way, you're helping yourself. So please like, share, and subscribe. And God bless. You and I were talking the other day, and we were sort of going through the evolution of your career, full-time racing, part-time racing, award-winning, your podcast. I looked at the numbers on it. It's very admirable, the following that you have with your podcast, Stacking Pennies. You've done the Amazon Prime thing. I mean, you're kind of a jack of all trades, but you did have this inflection point where it was like, all right, I'm a full-time driver, and you're under the pressureship of sponsorships, team owners, TV contracts, whatnot. And you had to sort of develop or evolve your mental model to think differently once you started having kids, and you have 3 boys. And you told me about this night on the RV. You're leaving a race and you're sort of killing bugs on the windshield. You got your wife and 3 kids sleeping behind you. And you made a decision, a very intentional decision that day, to say, the 4 people that are behind me, the 5 people, including myself, that are on this bus are sort of the lens that I'm now going to see the rest of the world through and all my career decisions through. Can you kind of talk about how marriage, family, the 5 people on that bus is sort of the worldview now that you use to make your decisions?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there. First, I'll go with, kind of being the jack of all trades. I realized real quickly that you can't be fixed on anything, particularly your mindset, with however you attack, whether it's driving, whether it's being a dad, whether it's being a husband, friend. You can't be tied to a particular way you make money, because you always have to continue to reinvent yourself, re-educate yourself on whatever the next thing is. And I've been lucky enough to have to do that out of necessity, not because necessarily I want to. It's uncomfortable to put yourself in those positions to where you have to learn something new, start to communicate with new people that you generally don't. But that's what I've done, and it's actually grown some tremendous relationships with NASCAR to allow me to do the podcast on a weekly basis. Partners on the sponsorship side that, companies like Celsius and Schluter Systems, guys that have been with me for 8 going on 10 years, that have continued to just increase their spend and be along for the ride. All that comes from just trying to continually deliver. and delivering looks different to any different party. So I've had to just be really pliable with my mindset of no matter what I'm doing, whether it's driving a race car, because you have to be very mentally pliable, because the variables change every lap. The grip's going to change every lap. Temperature's going to change every lap. Your car position relative to somebody else is going to change every lap. So I think that pliability I've learned behind the wheel also permeates every aspect of life that I've just continued to figure out and reinvent. And I don't look at it as reinventing in the moment. You just kind of go with whatever door the Lord opens, and you just walk through it and you hold it loosely and try to do the best job wherever your feet are. And then when it comes to, my little clan in the motorhome, that's the most anxious I ever am, is when I'm driving the motorhome, because I know everything that I love is in one place. It really is. Everything else is a distant second, whether it's chasing a career, doing the podcast is something I love to do, but that can go away tomorrow and I wouldn't miss it. But I know that there was 15 years of, I'm 33 now. I've been trying to be a professional driver since I've been 15 years old. All the chips on the table, chasing that. And I made it. And I had a successful career. I made more money than I ever thought I ever made. And I don't think it's coincidence. The more money I made, the more anxious I got, the more I felt like I was discontent. And just the way the Lord wired my heart, like he wires everybody's hearts a bit different, to where it was hard for me to justify the sacrifice it took away from my marriage and family to pursue being the best version of race car driver I had to be. And there was a wrestle there for years, and continued to get more and more as I got more successful. You just know and realize how much more time you need to spend to continue to hone your craft, to keep getting towards the tip of that spear, the 1% of the 1%. And the closer I got to the tip of the spear, the more like friction I felt. And I don't know what it was. It's hard to even describe. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of people that are chasing it, right? Because ultimately you're chasing it. And some of the guys who I consider friends who are really successful in sport have achieved everything I wanted to achieve, and yet they're still chasing it. So you're never going to stop. But for me this year, this season, to reshift my focus on my marriage, my family, my boys, because that is my most important job, is to prepare my kids to be good men. I got 3 right now, and I think about not even setting them up financially necessarily, but setting them up with an understanding of finances. And, if I could put money away now and it sets them up with a down payment on their first house to get them a little bit of a jump start term to that financially, yeah, of course I'm going to do that. And that's what I do. But I want them to understand how money works, how it can work against you, how it can work for you. Just like my dad did me, but also just to be good little human beings along the way, teach them responsibility, teach them to show up when they say they're going to show up, to do what they say they're going to do, to have integrity is something that, something I work on every day. Sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm bad at it, but that constant wrestle is what I feel like right where the Lord wants you to be, always trying to redefine yourself, try to get closer and draw near.
Well, I mean, the common denominator with you is success. I mean, you seem to just transition from one thing to the next and be successful at it. Obviously, you've been successful enough to compete at the highest level of NASCAR. You've transitioned into this Amazon Prime thing, and it looked like you had been on TV for 20 years, and you have this podcast. And I mean, what I love about your podcast, by the way, the last I looked, I think you had 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. I know that those aren't all NASCAR fans, because when I went and watched it, it's one of the most relatable atmospheres I've ever been a part of. I mean, yes, you're talking about NASCAR, but you weave in so many other things. I mean, I'm looking at the background of your set right now. You've got a Florida Gators football jersey. You've got an American flag. There's only one fire suit or reference NASCAR in the shot right now.
Do you know what this fire suit is?
Tell me.
Have you seen the movie Days of Thunder?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
That's Rowdy Burns. They only made 2 for the show for what's the actor's name? Michael Rooker. So they made 2 for Michael Rooker. Don't ask me how I got my hands on it because I'd have to kill you, but that is a 1 of 2 Michael Rooker. I believe it's the only one signed, though. So I took it. He was a grand marshal at Fontana 3-4 years ago. I knew he was going to come to the racetrack. So I brought it with me, stuck it in my suitcase, whipped it out. He's like, dude, I haven't seen this since 1991. Signed it. And that is a sick piece.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I might ask you off the air. And you gave me a video tour of your set before this, and there's some really cool things that aren't on camera right now. So this common denominator with you, I think, is the name of your podcast, Stacking Pennies. I mean, you have this mantra about you that just stacking one small victory after one small victory after one small victory will eventually turn into greatness, and you're a living embodiment of that. So I'd like you to sort of talk about what Stacking Pennies is, what it means, why you decided to name the show that, and then how you stack pennies in life, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your faith, whether it's your career.
Oh, man, thanks for asking about that. Yeah, I think just the way of the world anymore, it's instant gratification, right? It's a 10-second dopamine hit on TikTok. It's a get-rich-quick scheme thread on Twitter of how to invest money or Bitcoin or crypto or, like the list goes on and on about people want to get rich today. They want to have the best marriage today. They want to, live on a beach house today. Like, it's a saying as old as time, but like, it takes 15 years to become an overnight success. And there are so many celebrities, so many athletes, or so many financial people that can say that story, because you have to be disciplined to do the small details today to set yourself up for, 100 tomorrows, right? Or 1,000 tomorrows. But stacking pennies comes from, I didn't even understand it really, and just how it applied to every aspect of life when we first coined it, but pun intended on that. I got into the Cup Series. I knew my goal was to be a Cup driver. It's the only thing I wanted to do. That's the best in the world, driving stock cars. It's, again, my idols. And I took a unique way to get there because I didn't have a lot of options or sponsors. I mean, that's what you're up against coming through the ranks is guys that had more money. They have, rich families that can get them ultimately where they want to go quicker. So they had more options. So I had limited options. I had limited seat time. I had limited credentials, honestly, to deserve a seat on Sundays. And it was the worst team on the grid. They had a seat available, and I was wearing this guy out for months. Please let me drive. Let me drive your car. I'll do you a good job. I promise. I'll clean the shivers. I will, I'll do anything you need me to do to get an opportunity in this car. And it wasn't going anywhere. He's like, man, I need somebody with some funding. Man, I need somebody with some experience. All the things that you hear when you're trying to break into something, especially at the highest level of motorsport. So this is coming off. So Jimmy Johnson had just won his 7th championship, 2016, I believe, or 2017. And he's been a bit of a mentor of mine. My dad was a mentor of him when he first came in, so he's always helped me out. And if there's anything I needed, and just an all-time great guy. I called Jimmy and said, hey, man, I'm trying to get in this car. It's not a very good one, but it's something, right? It gets me to where I ultimately want to go, and I think this is, right? I have a shot to get in, and I just don't he's not giving me an answer. I said, what do you need me to do? I'm like, I don't know, put in a good word maybe. He's like, well, send the guy's number. Remember exactly where I was. I was in my basement of my townhouse. This is before we had any kids, and texted the owner's number to Jimmy. Jimmy was in Aspen skiing. He spent time, called him right up. About 20 minutes later, Ron was the owner's name. He says, hey, big guys, you're good enough for the 7-time champ. You're good enough for me. So he put me in the car for a one-race deal with Daytona 500. And I had to qualify in. There were several cars going home. We were the slowest car to racetrack all week in practice. Somehow, by the grace of God, we got into Daytona 500, and with the purse as big as it is for that race, it allowed us to keep racing a couple weeks in a row. one race turned into 5, turned into 15, turned into 30. But I get about 7 or 8 weeks into the year, and man, you just not running well. Cars aren't very good. They're really outdated. Engines aren't strong. And a great day is going to be 28th, right? I hadn't run that way my entire life. I'd always been the guy that if you just drive a little harder, you can get to the front. You can win some races. Everybody talks about how great you are. Then you show up next week and do it again. And you don't do that in the Cup Series, right? There are 36 elite race car drivers and 36 really smart teams that are building good cars. So you're relatively going to run to the capability of your car, and that's about it. So I just found myself really unmotivated to go to the racetrack. Just not excited. Who's going to get excited to go get their teeth kicked in and run 28th if they do everything right? And I was too immature and too young, didn't have a good mindset, and just continued to get worse, tried to overdrive it, put myself in bad spots, tried to get more spots than what the car was capable of. And just was in a death spiral of confidence, of joy in life overall. It's permeated every aspect of life, marriage, your friendships, just everything. You become a miserable human being when you're not doing and you're not right where you want to be, especially in the headspace you need to be. So my cousin was the safety at UNC Charlotte. He's the all-time tackles leader for Charlotte's football program. He's like, man, have you ever seen a sports psychologist? He could tell I was wearing, right? I was wearing, and I was not myself. And I was like, sports psychologist is for sissies. Who needs to talk to a shrink, right? Just go talk to her. She's great. Went and met with, her name's Desiree Festa. She is now the head psychologist from Buffalo Bills. So she is an absolute. So we start, I go to her a couple weeks in a row just to explain to her, and more or less I was teaching her how NASCAR worked, right? And it's unlike any other stick and ball sport to where I can't go to the batting cage if I can't get a curveball and just take cuts until I figure it out. Like, you only run as good as your car's capable of. And then in which case, if your car's not very capable, you don't get any sort of external validation for your work you're putting in which case you become dismotivated to continue to put that work in because it's not going to get validated. Right? So it's like this cycle that perpetuates until you're burned out. So she becomes aware of that. She understands my mindset and how negative it was at this point in time. And she was like, man, what are some things that doesn't matter how fast or slow your car, it's just, what are things you have control over? I was like, nothing, nothing at all. My life sucks. She's like, stop. Like, order something. Okay. Can you smile in the garage area? Is anybody like twisting your arm, making you frown, right? That you don't like your job? Oh, no. Is anybody making you cuss on the radio when you're out having a good day? Like, do you think that's positive? Okay. No, I could probably do better at that. Is anybody making you if you're by yourself running around the racetrack, do you have to hit the wall trying to do too much? I guess not. Do you have to speed on pit road? Like, if you're trying to push too hard and get time on pit road, like if you're trying to be aggressive on your lights, well, I guess not. And said, okay, let's put these 4 things down on paper. And we're going to go do these 4 things. We're going to go smile. We're not going to cuss on the radio. We're not going to hit the wall by ourselves. And we're not going to speed on pit road. Doesn't matter how fast or slow your car is. You can go do those 4 things. So I showed up at the racetrack. Forgot where it was first time. And I was like, hey, I did all 4 things. Okay, what's the next one? Well, let's out-qualify our teammate. Okay, can we do that? Yeah, we did that. So we add another thing to our list because we didn't have a name for it that top, right? And if I showed that list to the top 10 guys in the Cup Series, they would laugh at me like, yeah, of course you have to do all this thing. So, I mean, a lot of the successful guys don't smile, and a lot of them do cuss on the radio, but like those were 2 things that I had control over that didn't matter what the capability of our team was. So I started doing these things and find myself getting motivated to go back to the racetrack to do these little insignificant things. But because those are the only things that I know that I had direct control of, right? And that started to turn into like being a better ambassador for our sponsors, to be more interactive with those guys when they're there, because I know the more we get, the faster our car can go. So it starts to like build some momentum, and because all these items on this list were insignificant, we called them pennies. Because, I mean, I've got a bucket sitting here right underneath the the laptop of Pennies that now that our fans have given to me at the racetrack over the year. There's a bowl full of pennies, probably 20 pounds worth of pennies. It's probably $12, right? Like it adds up to nothing. But the combination of all those, right, just doing those small things changed my mindset to go attack a weekend and try to be the best version of myself. No different now than, people stacking pennies in their particular life. Like hitting the snooze button doesn't seem significant. It seems it's easy. Hell yeah, when you want it. Well, this morning when my alarm goes off at 5:30 to go work out, I really want to hit the snooze button, but I don't. I hit off. I put my feet on the ground and I start moving. Right, or you walk across a piece of trash that's been sitting there for a day or two. Do you stop and pick it up? Like those little things. If how you do anything is how you do everything. It's one of my favorite sayings of all time. Is like that is the pennies. Those are the pennies that if you do the small things right, ultimately the big things will come with it, come natural. So that's where the mantra comes from. Naturally now I love pennies because they're cool. I love copper, but it's become the thing. It's like that's like what defines my life now is people just know me as the penny guy. But I love that because people, once they understand what stacking pennies is, everybody's stacking pennies, whether you know it or not. Because if you don't realize it, then you're probably not working. You're probably not stacking the right pennies in life to get you ultimately where you want to go. You're stacking the right ones. You have to be disciplined to do those things. You have to eat the right stuff. You can't eat garbage. You got to work out. You can't just slack on your workouts. You have to be intentional with your marriage. You have to be intentional with your kids. That doesn't happen by chance. And those continual choices, one thing or the next, that's in a very long-winded version of what stacking penny is.
So many things come to mind there. There's that old mantra, eat the elephant one bite at a time. There's the Admiral McRaven speech about making your bed. If you start every day by making your bed, that's the first step of your day towards greatness. It's come up on this show before. Live the next 5 minutes of your life like they're the most important 5 minutes of your life. If you do that consecutively, think about the type of life you're willing to live. I go back to the beginning of your answer about, short-term gratification versus long-term gratification. There's such a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is sort of transactional, but joy is sort of more that long-term gratification. And I think NASCAR is the perfect analogy for that because, you want to be at the front of every lap with clean air and getting your laps, lead points and all that. But you might need to pit stop. You might need to hang back in the middle of the pack and let something develop in the race before just jolting up to the front. So you've lived that life stacking pennies every day and you're motivating others to do it. But now I want to move from pennies to real dollars. You decided to do something really interesting at Watkins Glen back in 2019 in a sport where, you make money when you win the race and get points and all that. But predominantly, a lot of your income comes from the sponsorship on your cars. You decided to forego that and put Samaritan's fee on the side of your car and literally zero out, your income for a race. Talk about why you did that and how important that was to you to sort of make a statement like that.
Man, that's one of my all-time favorite life stories of just bringing your 2 fish and 5 loaves to the feet of the Lord and let just to see what he does with it. So I'll give you the long-winded version. So my wife and I in 2018 went to Haiti for a missions trip. And when you talk about third world country, bro, that's the third world country, right? There's no trash service, trash on the ground, no sewer system. Like you can't even articulate how far behind or what conditions people live in when you're here. That's why this echo chamber of social media is so bad because it's just people that have never had any sort of outside of the country experience talking about how bad this country is. This is the best country by far. For many reasons. But when you fly from Miami and you land in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, you are on a different planet, bro. So we get in a van and we go up the mountain and we go back down the other side and it is poverty, man. It's shanties, tarps on the roof, and it's communities of people that are as full of joy as you could ever imagine. Never seen a community with more joy in your life. Kids smiling, kicking around a Sprite bottle, playing soccer with it with no shoes on. And we're there for, 10 days or something, right? No running water, no sewer. It's like, it was an experience. And it hit me like 3 or 4 days in, like, man, nobody has shoes on. What's the, like, yeah, like, what do you mean? Oh, yeah, shoes on. Well, where are you going to buy it? There's nowhere to buy it. No stores. They have farmers markets. They have, this guy grows cucumbers. This guy grows tomatoes. This guy's got a goat that he's going to kill every 3 days and feed the community. That's how freaking works. Like, and then we're going to hope that we don't get sick because we drink this water. Like, that's what their life consists of. So I get back, and anybody that's been on a sort of a missionary trip of sorts, like, is on fire when you get back. It's like you're ready to tear down the establishment and rebuild it how it should be, which then you realize that's not going to happen because it's impossible. But it's like, okay, what can I do to just use this little bit of a platform I have as a race car driver to, push shoes? And I had a little bit of an emotional attachment to it because my racing nickname was Super Shoe. So there's a show out with Owen Wilson on Apple TV called Stick, right? When you're a good golfer, they call you Stick. If you're a good wide receiver, they call you Hot Hands. If you're a good driver, they call you Shoe. So when I was growing up, people started calling me the nickname Super Shoe. Dropped it, now it became Shoe. So I've always had a bit of a passion to do some sort of charitable efforts around shoes. When I got back, I'm like, man, they need some damn shoes because they don't have it. Talked to a buddy of mine who had a really good connection with this charity based in Charlotte called Samaritan's Feet. I had heard about it because Steve Smith, wide receiver Panthers, had worked with them in the years prior. So we literally just called Manny, the founder, up. He did when he was there with me. We drove down what I thought was going to be about a 20-minute meet. Hey, how are you? Love to help. Here's, do some social media posts. Turned into about a 3-hour conversation. And I was all into, and I come to find out that foot-borne illnesses are the leading cause of death in the world, right? That's something we would never know. Just people walking around, get a cut on their foot, step in just open sewage because there's nowhere for the, number one and number two to go. They get sick, they get septic, they die. It's a leading cause of death in the entire world. And I'll save you the story of how Manny, amazing story, came to the States to play basketball and got a scholarship, worked at Tech, and then he's from Nigeria, just knew that the Lord was calling him to, instead of make millions of dollars in tech, like, I have all the tools I have and all the knowledge that I have built is to figure out how to get shoes worldwide. And last year they crossed the threshold of donating 10 million shoes. Which is unbelievable. You think about that many. Yet there's still 1 billion people in the world with no shoes. I'm rambling a bit, but I go back. And I knew I wanted to help those guys. I didn't know what capacity. So I'm late. This is like a week after our meeting. Kelly and I are sitting around trying to figure out how to, what we can do. And we're thinking small. What do we have available? Can we donate a couple bucks? Can we do a social media post for them? And I'm laying in bed one night and I had dead asleep. And I had this vision of this 32 car. I was driving 32 Ford Mustang at the time. I had this picture of 32 car, Samaritan's Feet, white text, their logo with the 2 barefoot prints on the hood. And that was it. I woke up, ping. It's like, okay, that's going to be $150,000, right? It's going to be like, who can I get to offset this cost and do this scheme and, figure out who can sponsor it. And I felt the Holy Spirit, like, it's as clear as I'm sitting here talking to you, say you're going to waive a month of salary. And you're going to ask the owner if he can put this charity up part. So I was like, okay, I'll call him in a little. and go back to bed. And the Holy Spirit was like, nope, you're going to call him right now. It's 11:30. You get up, call him, call Archie, the guy that owned my car at the time. I'm sure he thought that I was in jail and I needed some bail money or something. He goes, "You all right, dude?" I'm like, yeah, I just got to ask you something. It's on my mind. Go, what you got? Would you be willing, if I waived a month's salary to put this charity that I've been working with on the car? I don't know why. I just feel like that's just what I want to do. And he's like, man, obviously one race cost is more than what you make in a month, but I'm willing, if you feel that strongly about it, I will eat some of it as well. And that's, it's a good gesture you're going to do. I'm willing to help. Great. Awesome. He said, are you sure? I said, no, but let's hang up before I change my mind, because it's probably a bad idea. So the wife thought I was crazy, natural. So we're at dinner the next night. It's like, okay, how do we activate this thing? Like, how do we get some attention around it? How do we get people to donate to the cause and just make this, like, recoup some money and drive some traffic, right? So they had a GoFundMe, or they had their website you could donate to. And she's like, well, if you donate anything to this page, you'll get your name on the car for the race. It's like, she's like, do we set a minimum? I said, no, we don't set it, because there's no minimum to make it to the pearly gates, right? If you've got a penny, you put a penny in there. If you got $100,000, you put $100,000. So we put it out there and start to get a little bit of traction. Then it started to go to the pearl. I was getting every donation. I would get an email on my phone, and I would get the email. I'd write it on the car. We'd have kids donate $1. We'd have people, there were several drivers that supported us: Dale Jr., Chase Elliott, Bubba, Harvick. A lot of guys really leaned into them. We had 1,735 people donate over the course of about 5 days. We raised up $138,000, give or take, over the course of that. And it was like 2 Station 5 lows, man. You offer it up. The Lord took it somewhere you never saw it. Do the race. I don't even know how we finished, but that was the bar. It was just an amazing to see that. We, all that money went to the Spirit's feet. So we did a lot of cool things with that. And yeah, that was really an eye opener for me, of holding it loosely. And I felt like I started to realize my platform wasn't necessarily tied exactly to how competitive I was, because I didn't have opportunity to be competitive on a weekly basis with teams that I was at. But how can I use this platform for good? And continue to work with Ferentz Fee, continue to work with Manny. He's developed now a new shoe called the World Shoe. He's put manufacturing facilities all over the world, Africa, Nigeria. So that's his next venture, to just make clogs or flats, to put shoes on everybody. That was really cool. I appreciate bringing that up. It's a long-winded story, but something that changed my wife and I's life forever.
Well, so many people in life, especially people of means, think that doing well and doing good are mutually exclusive. But the greatest people in the world figure out how to do both of those at the same time. I mean, doing well means, making money. Doing good, typically if you have the means giving it away. The more well off you are, the more good you can do. And you found a way to do that. You also mentioned something else. Both our wives' names are Kelly, and they both think we're crazy. So we share that. We share that in common, brother. And then you talked about the Holy Spirit. So you brought it up. I've talked to you about your faith before. You've sort of described it as a wrestle, sort of an evolution. Enlighten us on that a little bit. Where's faith in your life?
I try to keep it at the forefront, but man, it's just like the Bible says, man, the worries of this world, the deceitfulness of wealth, can choke out the word, make it unfruitful. So that's the wrestle, right? Because I spend a lot of time thinking about how to be diligent with money and where to put the right investments, and, think about what the next career move is, how to be diligent with that. But, the balance between, is this an ego play, or is this where the Lord's leading me, is the wrestle. And I think it's different for everybody, where, the drive that is inherently wired into you could be used for really good things, or it could be used for really selfish things. And I've been on both sides of that, where I've felt like when I realize I don't feel that wrestle is when I'm not into the word. The more I'm into the word, the more it cuts between joint marrow. And, you read a lot of Paul's stuff, and he is the most articulate teacher of the gospel there is. And he is in a constant wrestle with it. I do the things that I know I shouldn't do, but I still do them. That's my life, man. I freaking try to lean in, but as much as you want it to come natural, it doesn't. It is work to go sit down and carve time to just be quiet, meditate, and pray, and to read the word like an actual word. I can do a Bible plan on my phone, but I've got notifications coming in. I'll check Twitter when I get bored. Like, to sit there and crack it and read the good book, like there's nothing like it. When you're in it, you want more. You can't stop reading it. And I get that it's an intimidating book to read, but I was lucky enough to be kind of raised in the church. I was raised Catholic. Now we pulled to a non-denominational church when I was 14 or 15, and that really started to speed things up for me to realize it's more about relationships than it is rules. And once you look at it through the right filtering, you kind of understand how the Bible flows, and it's just a book that is metaphorically pointing to one thing, and that's the resurrection of Jesus. And, you can read it metaphorically, you can read it literally. There's a million different ways to eat and digest the information the Bible's giving you. And there is a lot of ways to get distracted, because there's a lot of bad teachers of the word. So that's why you have to do it yourself. You have to, just like reading the fine print and between the lines of any news you're intaking on a daily basis. You have to understand your own filters of what's right or wrong. But it's the best, man. And I don't do the best job of doing that, of sitting down and opening it. But I know that it's a constant wrestle to get in it, because I know that I'm a better person when I do it. I'm a better husband when I do it, a better father, a better coworker. When the Holy Spirit is alive and breathing, it's alive, but there's a lot of times I put callous on it, or don't want to hear what it has to say, because it might not be what I want to do, or where I want to go, or where I want to be led. So it's the only. It really is. So I always say that I need to do better. We always need to do better, but, that's my guiding light. Like, that's what it is. It's James 1:22. So yeah, that's, I'm not a professor. I don't have it all figured out by no means. That's why I have to read it, because I know that I don't have it figured out. I know I fall short every day, and I know I need the grace and the mercy and the salvation that is given from it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think people forget, on a daily basis, that faith is a journey, and the checkered flag is heaven, and we don't cross that checkered flag till we're there. So we may not be, in the pole position right now. We may be at the back, but things vary. There's variables, and, it's all about where we end up in the end. You mentioned interpersonal relationships. For me, my greatest interpersonal relationship is my relationship with God. We rely on one another, on our friends, on our family for so many things, but sometimes we forget to rely on God, and prayer is a direct conversation with him. So I've had to learn over the years that there is that conversation out there. I go talk to my friends, I go talk to my wife. You got to talk to God from time to time, and the Bible is the best way to do that, because it's literally his word speaking to us.
Get you off track here, but like, I encourage, man, I've been on such a Dallas Jenkins from The Chosen should be paying me for as many people as I've been telling about to go watch The Chosen. But that show, guys, is incredible. That show puts so much personality to not only Jesus, but to the disciples, that you can find a bit of yourself in everyone. To know how anxious and scared and, how broken those guys are, right? They don't have anything figured out, but you read the Gospels and you could think, like, of course Jesus chose these guys because they're just better than, right? They have stronger faith, or they have, wittiness about them, or no, like, the way they told that story, which is probably closer to factual than not, is incredible, because Jesus took the lowliest of the low and made them saints by just their faith. And that show, if you don't have an understanding of who God is, that is the show you need to watch. And it's a great show regardless of where your faith stands. Like, the fact that it's just based off of gospel, obviously he adds meat to the bones of certain personalities in certain situations, but it's incredible. They just finished season 5. It's like, man, I can't sing its praises enough for how good it is, how good of an understanding it should give of, like, the Lord's heart through how, Jonathan Romy plays Jesus in The Chosen. Like, man, it's so freaking good, man. It is so good. And it makes you want to pursue. Like, if Jesus is anything like that, which he is, right? He is lowly and gentle in heart. That's who he is. He's not condemning. He's not harsh. He's just, right? He's love. But to see that on screen that comes through with just all the different personality dynamics in that show was like, man, everybody should watch it. Everybody should watch it.
Well, you're singing to the choir on this show, because we've had the founder of Angel Studios on our show, who is involved with The Chosen. Now they're doing House of David, which is a wonderful show as well. They've done King of Kings. We also had Alex Jones, the founder of the Hallow app, on our show, and Jonathan Rumi, Jesus in The Chosen, is one of their key personalities that does daily scripture with people. So we're well familiar with that show. I watch it. It is fascinating. Even if it wasn't the story of the Bible, it's just a great show. So we talk about Jesus, right? And you mentioned his humility and how he deals with conflict and goes to the low of the low and helps them. I've learned through this show, I'm kind of in the politics culture space, and it's not really a very inviting place for people to resolve conflict. It's a lot of headbutting, and no one really wants to sort of have an open dialogue about differing views. You had a little bit of a different experience. You showed a lot of grace after your Phoenix dust up with Bubba Wallace. NASCAR's known. It's one of the reasons I watch for big personalities, rivalries. I mean, we see fist fights, on the track. You have a famous photo in your studio of maybe the famous fist fight of all time. But you did invite Bubba on your show, and you did talk about it, and you did reconcile it. So talk to me about grace, forgiveness, leadership when temper's cool, humility in a sport like NASCAR.
Well, I've been lucky enough, man. I've brought up all these guys racing since we've been 12 years old. And Bubba, oddly enough, like, we went to high school together. I picked him up every day of every single day of school. I would drive from our house right across the street, about 10 minutes down the road. I'd pick him up, and we'd drive about 5 minutes back to school for every day.
So is that your way of telling me you taught Bubba Wallace how to drive?
He was going on pretty good by that time. He does owe me gas money for it. Yeah, he gave me $20 over 3 years. I said, buddy, he can. Now I've added interest to that over the last 15 years.
Stacking those pennies, baby.
A lot. I'm gonna send him a bill here soon, but Bubba and I are a unique case. I wrecked him at Phoenix on accident. Just got into turn 3 a little bit hot. He got loose, got into him, spun him out. But generally speaking, right, the rivalries are fierce because, like, this is your job. Your job is to go get your car the best finish possible. You're not there to play grab ass and hang out with the drivers and, go break bread afterwards. It's not like I'll bring my friends to the racetrack. And most of my friends are working on my car, and that's it, right? I'll show respect to other guys. There's a mutual level of respect generally between all the drivers, but I don't think drivers should be hanging out. Like, that is your direct competition. So, I just try, there's guys who, Now, the way I have always went about it, right? Like I don't want to go get fiery and get punched in the face. Did it for 14 if I wreck somebody, right? It's just like nobody wants to get punched in the face 14. We're going for a win. I back in the fence. I can work. I could say I can stomach. All right, that was a little bit much. Come punch me in the face for a win, but like it is hard to be consistent in who you're supposed to be as a Christian in a competitive-based business. And you talked to Michael McDowell last week, and, he's done a great job of that. And inherently, no matter what, like people are going to think a certain way of you because you have to be competitive. And that calls you sometimes to make bad choices in the heat of the moment. It really does. So to be able to be wise and have discernment of how to handle certain situations is where I feel like the Holy Spirit helps me the most, especially to kind of be calm and not flip the switch and see red in certain situations is important. But everybody goes about handles their things their own way. I have a way that I feel good about. I don't like it when anybody's frustrated with me. I'm all fine, racing hard and getting into guys, but I generally try to have a conversation afterwards. At least get it out there, not necessarily apologize, but say, hey, man, this is what I saw. This is why I did it.
Yeah. So I want to sort of finish with a couple questions on kind of America, but I want to weave our way into it through sort of a fatherhood question. I grew up with means. I didn't grow up in poverty. So the sort of atmosphere that, my parents instilled in me was we meaning them are going to put you in tough circumstances. We're going to put you in situations where you're going to have to sort of dig your way out of, whether it was summer jobs, working for a boss. If I came home and complained about that boss, my parents couldn't do anything about it. Another thing was sports. My dad made me wrestle in high school. He said there's nothing more humbling than, getting pinned in front of an entire gym of your friends while wearing tights. And that's how it started. I got a little better as the years went on. But, you and I have talked about this sort of famous quote that, hard times make tough men and easy times make weak men. And, in America, let's call it what it is. We're in pretty easy times. You mentioned the story of going over to Haiti and what real poverty looks like. So in the environment that you're in, you're very successful, easy times, one might say. How are you sort of bringing your kids up underneath your success, but still instilling the right values in them of toughness and grit and creating those hard times for your three boys to raise them to be tough boys?
Yeah, my boys are a bit young, but to have actually tangible lessons at the moment. But my 5-year-old Levi, my oldest, I can have those conversations and start to. I mean, I've been doing this whole life where you put him in positions where honestly he's probably going to fail, whether it's trying to swim, right? But you're there, you create an environment to where they fall lightly, right? They fall safely, and you're there to either catch them or encourage them. So then they can continue to work up and get better and want to go overcome whatever it is against them, whether it's heights or whether it's something fast or whether it's riding a bike. Like, they don't want to do those things because it's scary, because anything unknown in life is going to be, you're going to have fear towards that. So for me, I think about ways that I can create a little bit of fear, in a safe environment for me to catch them, to help them, to, I've got a 125-foot zip line in the back of our house. My 5-year-old and 3-year-old are pedaling bikes with no training wheels. Like, put them in positions to where they're uncomfortable, but they realize that, the reward is worth the risk. And there's way more than that too that's going to be in the future conversations. But now that's what I want to spend time with them, to push them, right? I'm not going to hold their hand. If they want to get milk out of the fridge, they can go get milk out of the fridge themselves. I'm not going to go tend to them hand and foot. And my wife, it's super important to have you and your wife on the same page with that too. That's probably the most important thing, because if you're going to be tough love, you got to have some backup. And there's times too where you don't want to be tough love. You want to be I look at parenting is just a bank account, and you have to have enough deposits of love and affection and nurturing to withdraw the criticism, the critique, and the times where you have to be tough. If you continually withdraw those moments of being a tough dad, they ultimately won't feel or be receptive to the criticism because you don't have enough deposits in the love account. So I want to be really intentional with time and words that I use to my kids to uplift them that way when you have to have a hard conversation. If they're not listening to mom, or they're not doing their chores, or they're not doing things they're supposed to be doing, they also know it's come out of a place of love because they can get a popsicle when they do the right thing, right? They can get a gummy bear. That's how I bribe my kids to figure out that they pedal it for a minute, they'll get a gummy bear, right? So I'm like literally like a bear trainer at PT Bonham Circus. But it works. Sometimes you got to get the bribe out. But yeah, man, living by the deposits and withdrawal with my kids seems to be working now, and I think it seems to be. I just want to make sure I have enough deposits in the love account.
So maybe with your kids, it's not stacking pennies, it's stacking gummy bears. It's funny. We want to put our kids in a position to fail, but we want to be the one that they return to when they fail. So you're right. Those deposits of love are so important. Yeah, we want to be hard parents. We want to be tough parents. But if we don't have the reciprocal relationship with them, they're going to go to someone else to help get through those situations. We want that to be us so we can have those conversations with our kids. So I love the bank account analogy. No surprise coming from the stacking pennies guy. All right. So just 2 questions left. I went to Pocono, hung out with you at Pocono a couple weeks ago, and I had been to a NASCAR race before, but it was probably 10 years ago. And this was my sort of first way to experience it, as an adult, as a father. I actually took my 8-year-old son, and I was blown away. I think that NASCAR sort of represents everything that's great about America. You got people sleeping on their RVs for a couple nights. By the way, a ticket to a NASCAR race is like $20. So it just opens up this whole experience to a demographic of people that probably can't go sit, in the club seats at an NFL game or go sit in an NBA arena. The word that, as I sort of canvassed the whole sort of atmosphere and the landscape, the word that really kept coming back to me was freedom. These people looked free. They sounded free. They felt free to sort of live this experience with the drivers. So, Corey, you're a proud American. The flag is literally draped right over your shoulder right now. What does freedom mean to you?
Oh, man, I've been so blessed to do a lot of cool things with different branches of the military, whether it's, Navy, Army, Air Force, Coast Guards, and every time, Marines, every time I do something with those guys, I am blown away and super thankful those guys are on our team and women are on our team because we have some badasses that are protecting our freedom. So getting a glimpse into how much pride and how much sacrifice the men and women have in the military to continue to go out and for us to just not even realize how lucky we are to do the things that we do, to have the freedom to go to church, to pray publicly, to any God that you choose, right? To go in the middle of the street and have parades and have, protests and all these things that people partake in. That is not how the world works. That is somehow, by the grace of God and the lives of millions of people that have protected it, that's how this country has worked. And that's why it's the best. I've got a hero wall right here. That one of my favorite things, got patches from police officers and challenge coins and all sorts of cool stuff up there. People, just hand them to me at the racetrack because they know I've got a cool wall. But I got to ride with the Thunderbirds in Daytona last year.
I've seen the picture.
Bro.
9 G's you pulled.
9.2 G's. It feels to describe the feeling of pulling 9.2 G's, feels like the Lord has a bungee cord to your soul and is yanking it out of your asshole. That's what it feels like. You're trying to keep your soul in your body, and the Lord's like, no, this is mine. This is mine. And then finally when they release the stick, you're like, oh, my God. I was zonked for 2 days after that. Luckily, I didn't have too much stuff going on, but I've been lucky enough to go out of the country multiple times to, whether it be missions trips or races or just vacations, and like, there's no place better. There's really no place better. And there's so many people without a drive and a focus and a work ethic to more or less distract them from just joining the echo chamber on social media, just talking about the same things that make you feel good and get you some likes and clicks and retweets. Like, if people actually had good things going on that they felt passionate about, they would be actually be a productive member of society. But we have a lot of people that aren't, because they're bored and unhappy and anxious and depressed and all the things that come along with living an unhealthy life. That this perception of the country, this perception of NASCAR, this perception of our military is skewed to be something that it's not. So we have always made it a habit on this show to point those out, and I've always made it a habit to show those men and women as much thanks and gratitude as I possibly can every time I can.
So let's sort of wrap a bow on it with this last question. We're staring 250 years in the face. I mean, the next 4th of July is going to be an absolute celebration of the freedom that you just talked about. What's on your mind as a dad, as a believer, as a guy who's sort of been blessed by the wide open roads in this highway? Where do you hope your boys, NASCAR, sort of fit into the next chapter in America's story?
I think giving my kids experiences to, one of our favorite things to do is to jump in the RV, like we talked about earlier, but like going to see all the different things this country has to offer. Well, there's Grand Canyon, Mount Rushmore, Niagara Falls. You could drive around for the rest of your life and not see everything, all the different areas that and the people and the cultures that the NASCAR or that America has to offer. So I want to give my kids that experience. I want them to truly understand the sacrifice that it just does. Like, the other places in the world are not like this. So they truly appreciate it. But I don't think you truly can get an appreciation, no matter how much you talk about it. You have to see it for your own two eyes. So, man, I don't know. I think that ultimately with kids, more is caught than taught. So if they see me living a certain way, they see me, showing respect to police officers, they see me showing respect to different people who I come in contact with at the racetrack. They're ultimately going to do the same thing. So there's nobody who loves drinking a beer, shooting off fireworks on 4th of July than I am, right? So I don't know off the top of my head what day of the week July 4th next year lands on, but it's going to be a hell of a party in my house. Just to freaking be a red-blooded American, man. What else is there? What else is there to say?
Some things don't need to be said, but perhaps nothing is said by a NASCAR driver more than a good promo. You guys are the best at that. So tell my audience where we can find you, the podcast, social media, all those things.
Yeah, all my social media stuff. I'm actually a day one of a 3-day fast. I'm going to fast for social media as well. No, I don't keep Instagram on my phone generally anyways, but I'm bad about being on X because I like the updates of racing and all this sort of stuff. So I'm going to cut that out completely because it's just noisy in my life. Black coffee and water only for the next 3 days. But in the meantime, y'all can go find me on those said channels, X, Instagram, Corey LaJoie. Or you can follow Sag and Pennies on Instagram as well. That's where we do a lot of the show clips. And then I recommend watching our podcast on YouTube because we break down a lot of the clips in car cameras, and it's a really cool, just a video show as much as it is a podcast. So go check out Sag and Pennies. We're about everywhere. You can't hide from me if you want to go look. Just shoot my name in Google. I don't recommend reading too many scrolls down. You'll probably find some of that stuff. But Yeah, man, it's I care, man, the least amount in my life about being famous. Like the more I feel like the thing that's been on my heart the last couple months is like less is more. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's less work. I don't know if that's less stuff. I don't know if that's less like attention. I feel like it might be a little bit. Because lately the opportunities that have been in my life have been on the media side with, different TV partners coming in, asking what I got going on after the Prime thing was such a success. And with all that, I keep coming back to less is more. So I don't know what that means. I'm obviously going to keep social media. I'm going to keep all those things. That's just the way of the world now. But yeah, I'm not super active on it. I appreciate people engaging with it. I appreciate people listening to your show, spreading the good news about faith, family, and freedom. And I do a little bit of the same. We just talk about more NASCAR stuff, kind of stay in our lane a little bit. I'm not smart enough to venture out into those rough waters that you're dabbling in on politics. But man, I get on you because I would end up getting canceled pretty quickly. But yeah, appreciate y'all listening to the show today. Come tune in to Stacking Pennies. We have some fun every week as well.
Corey LaJoie, my man, thanks for stopping by the show.
Thanks, Case.
We the people. Why you quiet? It's time to stand up for the truth. How they coming for our kids, so who gon' stand up for the youth? Ay, and we know we win because Yeshua is the proof. Ay, we the people like Gates Garcia, so that's no excuse.